Hi, welcome to Gentle Buckle Bookshelf Tour Part 6. Happy New Year, this is 2023 and I'm going to run through all these comic books that I've got in this pile. Now, the thing is, let's just move that out of the way. Quite often, I've got a pile of books here, they'll probably all fall over me at some point. The first one, Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King comics. When I first got this, I thought, I don't know if I'm going to read it. I don't know, it's one of those books I thought, I wasn't so certain about the artwork. But actually, by the end of reading it, I absolutely loved it. Very sort of grand design style. Not exactly, but it's very unusual. It's not particularly, you might like it, you might not like it. It's one of those ones that you can sort of, maybe the excessive amount of yellow there in the text. But still, I thoroughly enjoyed it. An action-packed, illustrated life in comic books. Really learned a lot about Jack Kirby and also about comics in general, sort of the early years of comics. So really well done. This book is great. I love this one. Probably one of my favourite ones of DC. Now, I haven't coloured any of them. So anyone saying, we haven't coloured them. Well, it's all in black and white. But the thing is I liked about it, it includes this sort of thing. I mean, really, what an unusual thing to include. Probably many people getting this would actually think, All-Star Comics. Really? But I think it's just great. It's really, and they're quite a lot of them are actually very, very sharp. Probably the best quality I've seen for a long time. You've got things like this one, good old 100-page one. Probably, let's say, one of my favourite DC comic colouring books. DC Comics colouring book, I should say. And then you've got the back, you can see, obviously they show an example of it. Obviously, probably going to be so easy to colour that up like that. But still, you've got comic cover page as well. I don't know what issue that was. Number 17. Now, recently I just got 1 to 3 of the comic cover. I love that book. But I've never seen all the way up to number 17, though maybe some of the Wonder Woman stories, possibly. This one's lovely. I love this one. One of the books, again, that I got rid of years ago, and I had to get it again. The Complete Illustrated History of Skywald Horror Mood. Now, I haven't got too many of the Skywald books. I think they're really quite good. I mean, they're nothing in comparison, probably, with the, if I would say probably, they're not, compared with obviously Warren and EC Comics. But I still generally, some of them are actually quite decent. But maybe worth checking out, this one. So you can see the artist there on the right. Frederick. I just noticed that. But they're really quite hard to get, actually. I don't see many of these around now. Nightmares. Occasionally you sort of like going through the back in the comic mart and you might sort of find a little pile of Skywald. And they do go for quite a bit. So it's also got an index as well in the back, which is really nice. It's all black and white all the way through. There's no colour. You've got some stories. You've got bits and pieces here. Don't think it's full stories. There might be. Yes, there's a couple of full stories there. So there's a couple of full stories. Like I say, I think it's great. And like I said, got a really, really nice index at the back, which is very useful. So if you want to collect Skywald Horror Mood comics, this is definitely the book to check out. It's out of print, so you might not find a copy particularly easy. Luckily, this one, for some weird reason, turned up reasonably priced online. I thought, I will get that again. Now, this is one of the books that I'm not so certain about. When I saw, I thought, that'd be really nice to get. And I don't know, 1,000 Ideas by 100 manga artists. It is quite interesting, but at the same time, it just sort of goes over lots of different art styles. And it's also lots of people's ideas about what software they use and that sort of thing. So maybe it's not probably for everyone. But I think genuinely it was okay. But it's one of those ones you think, maybe I shouldn't have bought it. Because I've got lots of art books and sort of study books about art and sort of artists sort of describing their workflow processes and things. So I'm always interested in that sort of thing. But this one, it says, detailed photographs, 1,000 in total, taken by the artists themselves, etc. So if you're interested in those artists, of course, you probably find this book very, very interesting. But it was one of those ones that, I saw it in the shop, I must have that. And afterwards I thought, not so great, but still. Now I love this one, Dracula. I've got quite a few Dracula stories, and of course, they've all done in different ways. So you've got this one, Dracula, weirdly by Bram Stoker. Strange, obviously probably not, but it is really generally good. The artwork is very unusual. Catalan Communications, it's in English, and I thought the artwork is great, the story is great, and well, I loved it. So Dracula, I don't know anything more about it than that. I'm not certain if it's got a history of being in Spanish comics or if it was in anything about it. But I picked it up and I thought, I think it was one at Comic Marts, and I thought, yes. I mean, I just love the front cover. The front cover just immediately struck me, and looking through the artwork, it is just great. It's colour all the way through, and yeah, joins my collection. Now I've got a couple other Dracula ones like Esteban Maroto. I love his work, but this one I think brilliant. You can see the artist there. Well, let's see this one is very unusual. George Perez, I love George Perez's work, but I don't think this is the best book for it. I think they really could have brought out a real huge mega volume with lots and lots of illustrated pages, original art pages, etc. I mean, it's a lot, and it does cover a lot of obviously his work, but it was just, it's quite a thin book for probably one of the great artists, certainly of 70s, 80s, etc. I really, obviously Red Sonja there, Iron Man, the Avengers. I loved his Avengers work and much, much more. And of course, Teen Titans. But it covers a fair amount, but you can see it's not a huge book. George Perez artwork, archives, and it's a dynamic comic. Weirdly, and I don't know why this is called, it's got here, it says Dynamic Forces. Was that what Dynamic Comics was originally called or something? Because this is quite an old book, I think. It's not, without going to the front, it's got Fantastic Four in here as well. But this one's 2006, so I just wondered maybe that's what they were called. But still, it's a nice book. I'm really glad I got it, but at the same time, it's just one of those books you think, God, I wish it was slightly better. And it's, you got like GLA Avengers one there, you got everything. It's got a lot of great artwork, but still, just could have been so much better. I was expecting when I ordered it, when I got it, I thought, it was going to be, and then I got it, I thought, especially when I've seen a lot of the other Dynamite Comics books, and they're normally real super thick volumes. So that's what I was expecting when I ordered it, and it came. So it was a slight disappointment in that respect. Still, comic book makers. This one is absolutely brilliant. Now, who's this by? This is by Vanguard. Not one that I've got a few Vanguard ones. They're unusual. They produce these very unusual books, but still, this one is actually genuinely very interesting. This is of Joe Simon, and it's just full of tons of brilliant artwork all the way through. And it's sort of the very early years of comics. So if you're interested in sort of the origins of like vast number of characters, and certainly the early Golden Age, Atlas period, whatever, that sort of period, whole Harvey comics, whole loads of things. This book is absolutely superb. You can see obviously on the back there is the characters. Of course, it's always quite amazed me. Shazam, Captain Marvel, always quite amazing. Like I say, the first editor of Marvel Comics, the creator of Captain America. So this is genuinely a really good book. Excellent book. But there's a little, I'll say no colour. The first page I flicked through, there was just a little bit of colour. So you can see just a little bit of colour. But 90% of it, basically lots of black and white pictures, lots of great adverts, and some very early pictures there. I'm not certain who that is. Rip off. Wonder Man, apparently. Not Wonder Man, the later one, Marvel Comics one. This one's a very nice book. Christmas comic book stories. Lots of stories. The only thing about this, there's not really a vast amount of information, particularly where the stories come from. There's obviously at the front, but there's not really much sort of editorial information particularly. So that's a slight pity, but I genuinely enjoyed this, and this is again my favourite, Craig Yo. I love it. He's got lots of this. John Stanley, Walter Kelly, of course, Pogo. I love his work. Richard Scarry, and the Great Treasury of Comics, and it's got some very unusual bits of comic there, and lots of them are like from Dell and all those sort of things. You've got here the Santa Claus Funnies, various Treasury ones, Dell Publishing. I think they're virtually all from Charlton Comics. So you've got a whole mix of basically Christmas-related stories. All very nice, beautifully drawn, and an unusual paperback volume this one was. This is Yo Books again. Like I say, Yo Books, always bringing out lots of great ones. So there you got them back there. But again, not very much information particularly. It would have been nice, a little bit more details. This is obviously a little bit of an intro there, but a bit more background would have been nice, but still. This is a nice book. £2.50, you can't beat £2.50, and I picked this one up. DC Comics Year by Year. It's a very thin book. It's not a particularly huge book, but it's quite well done. Of course, I think there's a bigger version of this somewhere. But it's got lots and lots of all the covers. And I love books about covers. So you've got here Action Comics there, Detective, Batman. So it just runs through all the sort of the golden age, and obviously in the 50s and 60s. And that actually the thing that's probably the most interesting period. They've also got a bit later, obviously, as well, but not much. But you've got 1951. Let's just show you an example here. So you've got like the Brave and the Bold Detective comics and those sort of things. Obviously, it's Martian Manhunter, the early sort of, really the first superheroes of Silver Age. This is 1930 to 1967, and it's just generally a good little book, and certainly for the price, £2.50. My favourite one that I always see, and it always bugs me because that's the one book I should have bought that I never did. New Comics #1. Anyway, I think every comic fan has always got one or two comics they think, I wish I'd bought that. And New Comics #1 is that one for me. So DC Comics, year by year, 1930 to 1967. This is a very unusual one. This is in Spanish. Now I can read Spanish, so it's not a big problem for me. So it's not probably for everyone. But Al Williamson. And you can see The Ultimate Adventure. And someone's going to turn around and say, no. Okay. Probably not. I don't know. I'm not perfect in my Spanish. I lived in Spain for quite a while and I read Spanish. And there's always something, I'm certain I've got that completely wrong. So I'm not standing. But so I can read it well enough to go through it and think, you know what, I know what they're talking about in there. But of course, it would be nice if... Now, there was an English version, well, not an English Al Williamson book, but for some weird reason, it just did not come out in the UK. And at the same time, I just happened to be going through the shop and I saw this one, Al Williamson. I thought, well, I didn't get the other one. So I thought, well, I'll get this one, the Al Williamson. It's a really quite nice book. It's not, but it's not as big and not probably, well, it's not as good as the other one. It's fine, but it's still got lots. If you're an Al Williamson fan, I guess for anyone that collects Al Williamson or EC Comics, they probably will want that sort of book. But it's still, look at that beautiful on the back there. Just absolutely brilliant. But it's still a very nice quality book. But like I say, it's just slightly... not the one that I really truly wanted for Al Williamson. I love books about London, and this one is superb. I got this as a Christmas present. Soho, the Heart of Bohemian London. And it's by, obviously from the British Library, and it's by Peter Spicer. Absolutely superb. Full of tons of information, lots and lots of stuff that I didn't know. Lots of illustrations all the way through. It's black and white, but still a genuinely brilliant read about Soho. So if you're interested in that area, definitely recommend it. Now this one is amazing, absolute brilliant. Of course, if you're not a fan of Robert Crumb's work, you probably won't enjoy the book at all. But this book it's quite hefty. It's a real hefty tome. The Complete Crumb comic covers. Now I don't know how complete it is. It's always one of those things that it's probably complete as much as possible because of course some material maybe is not available. Certainly the very, very early works, obviously maybe not. But still, I think this is just a genuinely brilliant book. It's French, it's in French, but still doesn't matter because of course the covers are not. So you've got here, well, some probably are in French, but you've got some just beautiful artwork all the way through. And they are really, really high quality. Really love this work. It's just some very unusual, some pictures I can't show. Flicking through very quickly to find ones that I can even, but it's just wow, really truly nice quality book. Gives a little bit of detail at the bottom for each of them, obviously when it came out, like 1990, 1989, etc. But it covers a whole load of period, and it's about how many pages? It's a 300 odd page book. Really nice quality paper, very, very pleasant book. So Head, as it says there at the back, Collection Victor. Now I'm just going to put that on top of that, probably will collapse. This is brilliant. I love books of New York, and this one in the 60s, full of lots of black and white pictures all the way through. Obviously Barbra Streisand there and many other pictures. That's always the way when I say it's a black and white. And then of course there's a picture of a colour picture. Strange, but most of them were black and white. But this is a really, really nice book. New York in the 60s. And I've got a few books of New York, and any books obviously of the 60s are also combination of those, New York and the 60s, just great. Not the thickest of books, it's quite a thin book, but still very, very enjoyable read. Oh, probably another book, New York. Let's see, this one, yes, this one's Old New York in early photographs. This one's 1853 to 1901 collection of the New York Historical Society. Absolutely brilliant pictures. It's black and white. Strange enough, this one is black. I'm quite certain there's not going to be any colour in this one. But it's still full of just lots and lots of buildings and streets and things. Obviously, all completely different now. But these books are always great. And I assume, I'm just going to say without actually looking, I think it's a good old Dover book. But I've got quite a few of these Dover ones. New York in the sort of 60s, etc., etc. Every time I keep thinking, wish they brought out some more New York books like this. But still, great collection. I love these ones with the shops. I mean, you just stare at them for ages. You just think, wow, look at that shop, all the people there, all the various, just so different world. So carpenter's shop, everything all piled on top there. I assume that's obviously he's got druggist or something, commission, I have no. They always seem to have like lots of different types of shops, all piled on. Drug broker. I don't know what that was. Actually, to be honest, obviously when it comes to American, no idea. Obviously being from the UK, but it's still fascinating seeing all like you've got all these posters and things, and that's always quite fascinating looking at the posters as well. But this book is really very nice quality, sharp pictures as well, obviously for the period. This one is amazing. I loved it. The only thing confusing about it, I'm never certain the numbering, because they've gone for weird volume 2, volume whatever. And this one, yeah, this one's volume 2, issue 4. I wish they'd put it on the side or something. There's nothing on the side. There's sort of no indication of what number. So when you've got them on the shelf, you look at it and go, what issue is that? And of course you put, you want to put it in order sort of thing, but you can't. Now this is obviously the winter special, quality Marriott magazine, but this is full of brilliant, loads and loads of pictures, Star Blazer, loads of information about 60s, 70s, comics, UK comics. It's brilliant. I've got a few of these Battle in Britain, as well as other sort of fanzine books, and this one is really good. Now, I'm not a mega fan of war comics. I mean, I've got very few war comics, but still, books like this are just brilliant because it's just so, you think, oh, I really must check out this or that book. And this one, like here, the best of Jerry Finley Day. So it's got loads of ones like the Monster Squad, the Gibbons busting out, early works of Buster from Future. I mean, wow, just so much information about comic history, the UK especially. And it's also got American ones, Spring Hill, Jackson. And this one, Pete's Pocket Army. Just a generally superb book. Really worth checking, finding that. Special review section, Pocket Star Blazer. So if you're into Star Blazer, this book is just absolutely superb. Now, I love this one, Old London. Very unusual book, Street Cries. And it's full of just lots and lots of old lovely drawings as well, illustrations, as well as, of course, lots and lots of information about all the street cries and all the places around London where they were called out, all the booksellers' streets and things. Just so many, all the characters, various living city characters, bootlaces, etc. Just brilliant. Buy a live goose and things. Just tons of. And it's a very tiny little book, but generally a really good one. This one's Scholar Press Limited. It's obviously, there you can see I bought it for £1 and £1.25, obviously when it originally came out, 39 Great Russell Street. So it's just a really brilliant book. Day and night, the city rang with various hucksters' shouts. And this book covers all that. And I love that sort of thing. Strange enough, another book of New York. I've got obviously a pile where I've got books and photographs and things. This one, again, New York, but a real nice thick one. Not perhaps as good as the New York in the 60s one, personally, or the one of the sort of Victorian Edwardian period, but still quite a good read. And it's got lots of, obviously got the details there about the painting, the photo, and also you've got the photo itself. It's a lot of black and white, but there's some colour as well. Let's just quickly find a colour picture. You can see a colour picture there, and again, a description there. Really nice book all the way. Now, it's obviously landscape. So it's an unusual one, but I think it's good. This is from the New York Times. You've got the New York Times there. 365 days of New York. Though I'm not certain how they actually decide that one's on June the 22nd or July the 15th, etc. Maybe that's obviously when the photos, but you've got various things there. Pampered Pooch. With the 1990s, another gilded age. And obviously got the dog there in the car. But it's a lovely book and part of my collection of photographs. Turn that around. It's actually quite a hefty book as well. if they'd actually made a massive book, sort of this thing, it would have probably, oh, and of course it's from one of my favourite publishers. I love Abrams. Lots and lots of brilliant books from them. This one's superb. I loved reading the magazines. These stories back in the day. This is the second volume of collected comic strips from the pages of Doctor Who magazine and The Incredible Hulk Presents. Now, I didn't realise it was The Incredible Hulk Presents, but this is the Sylvester McCoy, the Seventh Doctor. And I think they're just great stories. I enjoyed them at the time. And this one is, you can see the stories that are featured. Featured 14 amazing stories there. You've got Absalom Dyke, Dalek Killer. And that was great as well. An essential collection for fans of Doctor Who. And I loved them at the time, and it was great picking up this one. I think it was 50p in a charity shop. As soon as I saw it, I thought, yes, I must get that. So that's a really nice collection. This is an unusual one. Comic Books 101. The History, Methods and Madness. Again, another charity shop find, but it's really good because it covers a lot, all the Gil Kane. It's got some obviously colour all the way through, but it's sort of done in the artists, the styles, the methods, the approaches, and it concentrates a bit too heavily in some places on obviously the main characters like their Batman and Flash, etc. But still, I found it a thoroughly interesting read. And Make Mine Marvel, of course, there. Spider-Man, you've got various information about that. And there's a lot of information about various artists and writers that I'd never heard of. So it was just a really, genuinely, obviously Frank Miller there. Really good book. 75 years of comic book exploits on the pages and behind the scenes. And it's by Impact there. You can see the company there. Really worth checking out. This one, I love these ones. I haven't got vast amounts of Marvel Masterworks, but I've always been a fan of Not Brand Ec. I know lots of people hate it. I know it's not the most popular, but still I enjoy it. Because the thing is, I like about it is the fact that you've got all the stories, you've got the 100 stories or whatever of Fantastic Four or more, of Kirby and Lee, but then you've got this. You've got these extra stories that are sort of unusual. They throw everything, the kitchen sink in. And I think they're just great, you know, numbers 1 to 13, all those Stan Lee, Roy Thomas, etc. Jack Kirby, Jinko. And you've got some really good artwork always. Some daft stories. I mean, the stories are all over the place. You've got here like Magnut, Robot Biter. But I don't know if they were ever super funny at the time even. I mean, maybe people were laughing all over the street. But I must admit, some of it, you got the origin of Saw, son of Schmodin, etc. You got a lot of that. And of course, you've got the story, the Captain Marvel story there. And the artwork, I think, is just pretty good. And it's just a fun little thing. It's got some Medusa there. You've got a little poem there, which is quite Little Miss Dozy, it says there. Dracula turns up, all the usual suspects turn up. And of course, the return of Forbush Man. I wonder if they bring out a comic of his. This is an unusual one. You've got Sergeant Fury, which near enough looks like a Sergeant Fury comic. Also, Here We Go Plotting. It's got some from other various comics as well. And of course, you've got the usual bonus material at the back. Just a very, very nice book. And of course, as ever, you've got not all the covers. So it's got 9 of the covers at the back. I've got a few of them. Most of my Not Brand Ec ones are actually without the covers. So it's nice to actually see the covers. And that was quite often filled with lots and lots of various characters and things that were obviously in the book itself. I love this one. Kazar, or Kazar. Everyone's going to say how they say it. Here's Kazar. And Shana as well. And this has got quite a nice selection of stories. Now, unfortunately, I never got volume 1, and that's the Astonishing Tales. But luckily, I've got all of the Astonishing Tales 1 to obviously 16, so I don't have to rush out and buy the Astonishing Tales volume 1 for this. I think I've got it in Kindle. So I think it was on for about £1.50 or something, Kindle, so I got it there. But you've got other stories as well. And you also got Daredevil as well. I think these are just great little tales. I thoroughly enjoyed them at the time when they came out. This character, Super Soldier, sort of obviously a slightly older Captain America variation. And that was got Shana there as well, the She-Devil. And it's right full of just great stories. Of course, it's got the usual, not vast amount of bonus material at the back. Now, the stories also have got, of course, the Bobby Morse as well. The origins and early stories of Bobby Morse. So that's good. This one's a lovely one. Television show book. Now, I think this is 1961, 62. I might be wrong on the year, but I love these sort of books. I haven't got as many as I should have, but I've got a few of these sort of books. And with all the top pop stars, as well as other I don't know why they say that with all the top pop stars, since quite a lot of it, when I look through, is mainly all pictures of TV shows, which is very odd, but still, it's still very good because you've got here all the top stars. Last time I didn't, Eric and Ernie, not so. There's obviously some. You've got Cliff there, of course, and Emergency Ward 10, etc. But it's really nice. And this one you got here, Norman's Day, and Emergency 10. So there's obviously a whole range of things. I think it's obviously very early 1960s, but it's a nice snapshot of all the sort of characters, the various people that were big on TV, as well as, of course, in records around that period. You got here, okay, do exactly the same. They didn't really spend much effort making the back cover, did they? I wonder if inside here, oh, they've just done the same as well for there. Now this one's a very unusual one, and I should have probably bought the English version of it. I think that's from Fantagraphic Books. I don't know why, I can't remember now the reason, but I love the artwork. Story-wise, it's very hard to work out, to be honest, because it's all in German. So I'm not the world's greatest for German. So you got here but the artwork I think is superb. But again, like I say, I should have probably got the British version, also the American version of this. It's still beautiful artwork. Turner Naught, 1969. But it is slightly confusing story. I've really no idea what's going on in that story. And you can see on the back, I can work it out from there. Not Alberto Baccia. Still a brilliant artist all the same. Here's a book I've never read. Well, I've read bits of it. I've admired the artwork more than the story. I mean, the story looks fine. I mean, thoroughly enjoyable. But as I said, I haven't read it all the way through. So maybe I haven't any real understanding, particularly what happens. Seems to be lots of prehistoric monsters, lots of various post-apocalyptic, or cataclysm as it says, story. And it's, well, what I saw, it does seem to be very good. But it's one of those ones I just have not got into reading it all the way through. Maybe one day we'll do that. But it says here, after an ecological cataclysm, the last men and women fight to survive a prehistoric nightmare, as you do. And this is volume 1. Hopefully at some point there will be a volume 2 from Flesh. The artwork is absolutely, it's black and white all the way through. Really felt like EC Comics, sort of Wally Wood, Al Williamson, and also, of course, lots of very high quality artwork all the way through. I thought it was just stunning. But story-wise, like I say, can't give any real idea about it. Been reading sort of like sections, so it's not really the best way of reading the book. So if you flick backwards and forwards, oh, I'll read that section. And then you flick, oh, I'll go to read that section. That looks interesting. So I'll read that bit. So one day I will sit down and read it all the way from start to finish. This one I did read from start to finish, and I loved it. Kurt Vonnegut. Never read the original, Slaughterhouse 5, which is terrible to admit, I know, but I've never read any of Kurt Vonnegut's particularly. Read a few short stories, whatever, sort of bits and pieces, but nothing particularly sort of this sort of thing. Slaughterhouse 5. And the artwork is superb, the story is superb. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I've got quite a few sort of adaptations over the years. Some are brilliant, and you think, wow, that is just the best adaptation. And some you think, oh, terrible. This one is definitely in the former. I loved it. Absolutely brilliant. Really told the story well. The artwork is great all the way through. Really easy to understand, follow, and just masterpiece. An absolute masterpiece. So you've got there the details of it. American classic and one of the world's seminal anti-war books. And this is from, you can see there, Archaea. This one is lovely. I love this one. This was a review copy I got from Dead Reckoning. And I loved it at the time, and I've just been reading it, and it's still just as good. Of course, you can see the two-fisted tails. Well, this is the four-fisted Animals in Combat. Really, it's a nice soft paperback, reasonably. I don't know if it's still in print. No idea at all. Still, it's got lots of little stories in here, and fun, amazing, informative graphic novel. It's not, if it says a graphic novel, it's not particularly a graphic novel because it's separate stories. So you've got sort of like about Satan, First World War, etc. And then it sort of goes back different other periods. And I just thought it was really beautiful. Not sort of colour in the traditional colour. Obviously you see it's duotone, but it's still really, really nice. Yeah, duotone. I have to suddenly think, probably some tritone in there as well. Who knows? Maybe monotone as well. But still. 1,000 comic books you must read, and I just love this. Many of the books I will never read. I am quite certain that, where is it? Lassie. I mean, I'm certain it's an absolutely brilliant story. I'm quite certain. Jungle Comics, probably again, another classic story. And Thunderbolts, I've never read any of that. Actually, there's quite a few on here that I've never read. Desperados, never read that. Read it. Herbie, I love the Herbie ones. Conger's Revenge, never read it. Mysterious Events, some of them. Spirit, I love Spirit. World's Finest, read quite a lot of them years and years and years ago. I haven't read any World's Finest for ages. Submariner, I love Submariner. And so on. Richie Rich, of course. And it's just full of page after page. And the thing is, in this, you've got, like, say, Weird Fantasy 17. Now, I read that, of course. Shock Suspense, there's a lot of EC comics on there, you can see. But you've also got, like, Walt Disney's Uncle Scrooge. And, of course, it's got one example there. I love the Uncle Scrooge. Donald Duck and all those ones. Just absolute Carl Barks. Masterpieces. Absolute masterpieces. And the thing is, obviously, it just shows one there. But, of course, there's a vast number of comics from Dell. And they were just great. But he's got here, like, Walt Disney comics there. Again, lots of great stories and all those. Wonder Woman, Weird Science. No, I haven't got that one. Panic. Love that one, the Christmas one. Absolutely brilliant. Young Men, of course, the Human Torch returns. And it's got sort of 40s, 50s. The thing is, if you go through it, obviously it's got information, gives you details about the writer, Dana Dutch and Matt Baker. I love those ones. Teenage Temptation one, the St. John's. Some of the artwork in that was just amazing. Wish there were more books of that material. But so I think it's PS Art books have brought out some. But a lot of Black Magic and so on. It's got loads and loads. But it's a great book to, you think, oh, you know what? I must find out more about that artist or that writer or that story. And this book is a sort of great spring. And it's like a bit like the books, 1,000 books you must read before you die, or 1,000 records or songs or albums or whatever you must read. There's quite a few of those sort of. I don't think there's 1,000. There might be. I think there is actually 1,000 comics. Probably similar, very similar vein. I think it's a thick, chunky book. This one is lovely. I love the artwork. I haven't read it. I say it's lovely, but I love the artwork. This one is actually, it's a weird one because there's not really much to read. So there's obviously it was a French book, but you can see here you've got there not much text, so it's really not particularly tricky. So you can read through it. You can, of course, but there is some text, obviously not all the way. But I just love the seaside, the beautiful, the blues, just that. I don't know. There's something about that. Whenever I go and visit a place like that, you go on the coast, and this is what this book really saw. When I flicked through it, I thought, wow, sort of feel. I don't know, it's just, but I have no real idea because I've never sat down and read all the story. But what I've seen in the artwork looks great. And one day I will sit down and actually read it. You can see there the back. Head off for a week at the beach. Chance to spend some time together. It looks great. I'm certain it is a lovely story. Let's say one day we'll actually read it. This one, Star Trek. Read these years and years and years ago. The classic UK comics. Just brilliant, this one. This is just full of just so many great stories. And it's got here, it tells you about, obviously, the Gold Key ones. But it was also in this, TV21 and Joe 90. And there's a magazine called Past Perfect. And there's loads of brilliant magazines from them that cover all this sort of stuff. TV21, Valiant, and so on and so on. Lots and lots of details about the Star Trek strips. And it's obviously got a bit of a forward here. The stories are quite unusual. Now, I don't know which volume of this is. This says part 1, but there was also some other one. Lots of them. There were quite a few. It came out as a series over here. But you got the slightly confusing here. You got here the story so far. So I assume there must be some other books before this. Otherwise, you wouldn't put story so far. And you got here the adventures that follow. Joe 90. So you can see there the details there. Joe 90. Top Secret Annual. I had that one years and years ago. Was never a fan of Joe 90. TV21, Joe 90 again, 1 to 36, and TV21. And the stories are really quite good, but they don't really feel like the stories from the series. You know, it's like red shirts and things going down to the planet. There's nothing really like that. It's still good. Nothing wrong with it, but you've got some very odd drawings like here of Spock. It doesn't particularly sort of, I mean, I know it's Spock, but it's not. At the same time, it's just weird. And there's other bits that seem to, you can see obviously some of the characters, and you've got other characters now, I have no idea, without actually quickly reading the story, who he is at the background. Obviously Sulu there, I assume, without actually quickly flicking through the story to read it. But you can see the general gist, you've got Uhura, etc. So it's a nice little collection of graphic novel collection of Star Trek. As I said, there was a series of them, IDW, but you could get them in the newsagents and it would be like, build them up, obviously, to build up a complete collection all the way along. But I saw this one, I thought, oh, I love those stories when they originally came out. So great little, and it's one that you can dip into. Again, it's not one I sat down and read all the way through from start to finish. I don't think it matters. Just you can just dip into the story and oh, I'll read that one, and then you read it, another one, and that's it, and then you come back to it later. This one is brilliant. I love these ones. Valerian and Laureline, and the City of Shifting Waters. For some weird reason, these ones turn up quite regularly in my local Oxfam shop. Normally for, well, this one's $2.99, actually slightly more expensive than normal. Normally like £1 or 99p or something. And there's loads of these ones. We actually get quite a few of these they're thin ones, sort of paperback ones. We never have hardback ones, which is odd. Always these sort of thin paperback ones. Obviously UK ones that come out, cinebook.com, yeah, the back. You can see some of the other ones there. The Empire of 1,000 Planets. Obviously from the film. I think that was the film one, wasn't it? But they're great little stories. This one's, it's got all the details there, obviously. The artwork is superb, thoroughly enjoyable. Great little stories. And you can see there, obviously colour all the way through. Very thin, of course. Not very much at all. How many pages? We're talking 48 pages. Still great. This is lovely. Unfortunately, it is not the one. I think there was an early one. Maybe my memory's what's the name on that one, but Kirby King of Comics, I'm certain it was a bigger volume came out originally. This one came out, obviously it's a soft cover one. The hardcover one I think is out of print. I think you can still get this one. But it's full of some really brilliant, obviously brilliant artwork all the way through. That's why in many ways when I mentioned about the Kirby one before, well, I was a bit sort of, oh, do I really want to get that one? Because I got this, Kirby King of Comics, and so I was a bit, I don't know if I wanted it. But this one, really love this. I should have bought it when it first came out. I didn't. I saw it and I thought, you know what? Oh, I must get that. And then, but I thought I must get it now. Kirby King Comics, obviously brilliant Alex Ross on the back there. Newly revised and expanded. Now it says expanded, so I guess there must be more material. But the book is, unless I'm wrong, slightly smaller than the original one was. So it's not really expanded, particularly it's shrunk. Of course, that wouldn't be so good, would it? Newly revised and shrunk down a bit. Please correct me in the comments below if you've got a copy of the original one, if it is the same size. I will stand totally corrected on that. But still, I thought this was really good. I love the pen, any sort of pencil work. Of course, you've got Fantastic Four, but you've also got some pencils that I just think anytime Jack Kirby or any artist, you know, I've got the pencil work there. Just love pencil work. Of course, once it's inked, you sort of, it is still Kirby's work, of course. But there's always part of me that thinks, well, it's Kirby's work and Vince Coletta or something. And you think, slightly changed. Only slightly, but still changed enough. But it's when you see it in the original, it's always good. And it's just a lovely volume, this one. We've got some more pencil work there. It's great. I don't know which that one is from. Obviously, some of these are, these are unfinished true divorce cases. That's probably one that was going to be, that would have been interesting. Beautiful artwork in this one. The Arrival. Sean Tan, just absolutely an extraordinary, iconic and multi-award winning modern classic, as it says, Australia's most acclaimed artist. Beautiful artwork all the way through. Very unusual style, very small panels. Very, and obviously some big panels there, but still very small. And it's just beautiful. Not particularly, actually, there is no text in it at all. So you could actually put any story you want on top of it if you want. You say, oh, well, that bit there. Someone said you could sort of just make up your own, because that's ultimately what you have to use your imagination about what's actually happening. Someone's looking out the window. Someone's just making some coffee. I assume that's making coffee. Then he's got a torch or something. You just got to work out the story from that. So it makes it a bit tricky in some. But still, beautiful, beautiful artwork all the way through. I mean, look at that. Just so dramatic. Just glorious. You get very few books like this. So when it's, you see, actually I was watching a video. There was one I just love, really, K-Fab. Oh, and they were showing all the manga comics from over in Japan. And I went to Japan. I love Japan, going to all the manga but they went to a book fair. And I was just thinking, that book fair just sounds absolutely amazing. Because there's just those small little, just wow. The amount of, and that sort of feels that sort of thing. It's very unique, sort of unusual style. Nothing like Marvel comics or DC comics. So these sort of books, I think are just great when you find them. There's just far too few of these sort of, it's like they were talking about things like travel books. And I was thinking, I should have done that. Should have sat, when I went all around the world, I was thinking I should have gone everywhere I went. I should have drawn up these sort of comic books and put them into like pamphlets and things. Because you think, would have been a great reminder as well, of course, some brilliant holidays and people that I saw over the year, and the food as well. And that's another thing. I love the food ones. And just, there's not that many, these food books. There's few, but not as many as there really should be. This one is lovely. This is just brilliant. Your Vigour for Life Appalls Me. Probably one of the, I have to say, one of the slightly worst titles. I mean, it's one of those ones that I think if I saw the title alone, I probably wouldn't have bought it. So this one's Robert Crumb Letters, 1958 to 1977. And there's just so much information. And it's a lot about like comics that he's bought, various things. I mean, just think you've got here like Walt Disney. The Walt Disney comics. It's just full of stuff. You think, wow. And this also talks about his like records, because he obviously collecting records as well. And it's just with Kurtzman's Jungle Book. It's just fascinating sort of guide into sort of like comics. And of course, you've got some of his own comics there, Farb. Just beautiful. And it's got here about all the books and things. King of Jazz, the pictorial history of talkies, and jazz, talking about jazz singer and America. I just full of so much. This is just a really fascinating book. Really love this one. So Robert Crumb's writings. I would love to see other books of. It's just wow, so much information in this, and absolutely superb. Really, really recommended this book. Welcome spotlight into sparsely illustrated letters. Yeah, beautiful. This is a lovely one. I love Christmas books. And this one's Archie's favourite Christmas comics. I didn't buy any this year. For some weird reason, I looked online and they had some comic ones of Christmas ones. And I thought, oh, should I get it? But there was nothing that really sort of jumped out and said, oh, I must get that. And I love books like this. Over 400 pages. You've got favourite comics over the last 70 years. So it's just full of just some great Archie comics. It's got some information, but you of course got the actual stories. Of course, there's a lot of the modern ones. Some of the early artwork is a bit odd. The Archie comics. This one, Christmas Cheer. They always create. They always. I love that. I don't know how well they hold up, but still love that. I don't know. You can spend hours just turning pages, couldn't you? Anyway, it's just great. I don't know when the year of this one. It says it's slightly before, and I just think the Archie one there, the mistletoe one, missing mistletoe. I think it's probably it's got it here, just a little section there, 1942. But again, like I say, quite a lot of the stories later on are more up to date ones. So you can see Archie's favourite comics. I love these books. I really wish they'd bring it. I would hope they would bring out a more comprehensive collection, like everything, sort of in 3 or 4 volumes. They must have that sort of thing, of all the Christmas related in a proper order, not just selective, because I think this is more like the favourite comics or selected favourites. So it would be nice to see a proper, really, 2,000 page sort of set of volumes, 400 or so in each. But I don't think that's, and maybe in a slightly bigger format. Of course, Archie always bring them out in these little odd pocket books, which are great. They're really good if you sort of going up to town on the train or something, because they just fit nicely. They're not sort of oversight, particularly things, so you can see the style there. And this one's another one, Archie, 80 years ago. So this one was over the 70 years. This one, 80. Weirdly, it's got a bit thinner, but still 250 pages. This one, the Riverdale Gang. So you've got 250. And again, I don't know about the overlap or if there's stories in one that matching the other one. And that's the thing why it would be nice to see if we actually brought out a proper collection where you could see every single one. 80 years. And again, it has some information about that. You can see there. So you've got 2020s, 2010s, all the way 1980s. And let's see if I turn that. I'm certain it's got stories a bit earlier than that. Oh, here it is. So you can see the range of stories, 1970s, 1960s, 1950s. Not many from the 1940s, whereas that one I think has a few more from the 1940s. Again, the artwork was, you've got Archie's dog, Oscar. Absolutely great. Oh, this one was Archie number 12, winter 1944. But again, it would be nice to have a proper, comprehensive, sort of full-on Christmas ones. I love these ones, Bone. Now, Bone, they brought out much better omnibus collections. This one's a very early one, 1 to 6, by Jeff Smith. I love the stories. The artwork is black and white, of course. And it's just beautiful, beautiful, beautiful artwork. Stories were just great. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. The artwork is just first rate all the way through. And there's details on the back. Obviously, Will Eisner as well being mentioned there. So you can obviously that dates it. Now, I don't know how old this one is. This one is from Cartoon Books a few years ago. But say new versions have come out since. Of quite certain. I think there's even a sort of gallery or slash sort of artist edition of the bone, which is probably even better because the artwork, I would imagine, is really superb. I mean, it's nice and sharp in this, really crisp, but I imagine getting a sort of gallery edition one or whatever, or a big volume one, would be even more amazing. Now, I love these ones, and this one's a very sort of tatty one from the works. I bought this from, but it's still official index to the Marvel Universe. And I love these ones because basically it's just page, very small. Now, if you want sort of the covers, you're not going to get the covers particularly. You've got to see the covers, but it's very, very tiny. You can hardly make that much out, really. But the information is great. And I love the way they break everything down, where it's got next in Hulk, blah, blah, blah. And then it's got etc., and it breaks it down with Dum Dum Duggan, etc. on live video last in Pun 7 or something, which I assume is Punisher 7. But it must have taken an immense amount of work to go through this, and it's just page after page, and then it breaks it down even further, so you get to the point where you start getting CW2, TB 103, I'm guessing Thunderbolt. I suppose there's an index at the front. I'm certain there isn't. There must be. It's got some details, etc. But I imagine that, I don't know. Oh yeah, there's at the back. So you've got sort of a breakdown. It makes it really hard, but in some ways it would be nice if they brought out a bigger one where it was actually the full words. Because I think sometimes it's, and I would love to have seen a bigger cover. But I still love these complete ones. And of course it's not complete, can never be complete, because of course they brought out more since that. So, but it's still at the same time, official index. I've only got 2 of them. I think I've only got 2 of them, quite certain. There's others in the series as well, which, let's see if they got that in the front. No, they haven't. I think it was an Iron Man one. I think it was some odd choices. There was like Punisher, I don't know, there was a couple other index, Ghost Rider. I think there are a few ones like that, but there was one, some of them I thought, why wasn't there an index to XYZ? It's all weird that they missed those ones. Oh, Golden Age one, a Golden Age Marvel index like this. I would have loved. I know they brought out one in the Alter Ego magazine, sort of Golden Timely Comics one, but that would have been brilliant. Or one that was all the Atlas Age. That would have been superb. But still, Captain America one, very similar. So you've got here a breakdown, and and it gets even more confused. Look at the text, it becomes very tiny, and you've got TOS, obviously Tales of Suspense, like 63/2, obviously the second story. And you've got MV Pro, Marvel Premier, I don't know what the O is. Anyway, but again, I would have to look in the back. But the thing about this one, and that's why I mentioned the Timely Comics, because they do have this. They've got this. Captain American Comics 22. Now, I don't know if it has, I think it's just got the Captain America comics, so it's not, even though it's Captain America, what would have been amazing if they would have included all of the other comics that were included, obviously, that he did, because he was in, I don't know, USA Comics or Mystic Comics. I don't know if he was, but he was in other comics like Human Torch comics or Submariner comics, but they're not mentioned. So it's not complete, sort of everything of Captain America, which is a pity. And then, of course, it goes Captain America all the way up to 65, 67, and then you get to 72, and then, of course, it changes. And, of course, Captain America, I don't think he was even in that one, was he? The Captain America Weird Tales one. You got that, the last one, and, of course, then it changes to the Atlas comic, the Captain America there. And then it goes into, of course. But the thing is, it doesn't have Tales of Suspense, which is slightly confusing when they've got the index, of course, mentioning Tales of Suspense. You go straight into Captain America Special, Captain America thing. They don't include all of that. So it's literally the Captain America comic. Very odd. Actually saying that, with this Avenger one, I guess, no, the Avengers one got Avengers Forever, New Avengers. So that sort of breaks that. It doesn't just go on with the Avengers. It's gone to all of the variations of the Avengers. I love this one. Marvel Comics, Marvel Greatest Comics, and this is by forward Joe Queester. I think this is, I'm saying it's by, I can't see, it's the DK one. Somewhere I was going to say it's written by, oh, no, it's not. Yeah, you can see the details there. 100 comics. And the thing that's fascinating about this, it does include a lot of comics on Captain America, of course, that I'm fairly familiar with. The Avengers. Now, I love the use of the panels. That's really great, just real sort of blow up the panel. And it's quite sharp and very nice quality. You've got obviously a classic This Man, This Monster. But then you've got other ones like Doctor Strange. This one here, 1982, issue 55, which I've never read. So that's the thing that's fascinating, because it sort of tells you about the story, it tells you about the details about Doctor Strange at that point. So you think, oh, sort of puts it in context, all the writers, the details about the artist. And also you've got here like Daredevil 231. Oh, a load of different stories. I haven't read that one. I must say I have read that one, and Weapon X. But Alias. Now, I read some of the not short stories, the graphic novels of Alias, but I didn't really know much about Jessica. I, of course, watched the series on Netflix, which I loved. But it's pretty good. Now, I never bought the omnibus edition of the Jessica Jones ones. New Avengers #1 and so on. There's lots and lots of different titles that I've never read. So it's just a fascinating book just for that. Not that I'm going to rush out and probably buy all of them, but still it is nice to have that information. And maybe at some point, because now I've got the Kindle Unlimited, maybe I will try and read some of these ones in Kindle versions. Can't buy every single book. This one is absolutely glorious. Very unusual one. Affinities even, not infinities, Affinities. A Journey Through Images from the Public Domain by Thames and Hudson. And it's a very, fascinating book. It's just full of basically beautiful copies of public domain. So you could obviously find them probably on the web. Some of them, I'm certain. But it's just beautiful. The thing is, I always love about these ones that are public domain is that right at the start it says, you cannot, what's the name, copy. You're thinking, but they're public domain. Obviously, it's in a book. Obviously, I don't know, the legalities of all these things. But it's just, I always love that sort of thing when it says it's a public domain thing, but at the same time, okay, who knows? But I guess, of course, you have to go and get the original copy of it. And some of these are probably really hard to get. The original copies of some of these ones, like a 19th century facsimile. Like just stunning artwork all the way through. So I guess if you and this sort of thing, just a page showing not very much, but still fascinating to see north, west, east, etc. And fish. Truly a beautiful, beautiful book. It's a sort of inspirational book. So you can actually look through it and sort of think, you know what, that would be brilliant as a story. You think, oh, that's a good idea. Something about a single thing like here, horse car. I know that seems odd, but you just picture something and you think, oh, I love that, goat, slightly misspelled, G-A-O-T. But still, parrot, deer. And you could combine those and make a story quite easy, couldn't you, from that? So it's a great book for inspiration. A really nice, high quality book, gathering a remarkable collection of over 500 artworks. I love this sort of thing, and it's just, I found it, really inspiring. Now, hopefully that pile will not fall on me by the time I finish this thing. Maybe I should start putting it on this side. I love Bernie Krigson. Absolute superb. Full of some truly brilliant. It's all coloured up. In many ways, I would have preferred it in black and white because I just love his artwork. So it would have been, but still, it's full of some great stories. Some classic stories, of course, EC ones. Not many EC ones, but lots of other ones from various other comics. And let's just show the original. Right, so you've got a long list of all the various stories in it. You can see there Buck Sanders and his pals, the accursed diamond. Just truly brilliant artwork. And the thing is also that's great is it's got some original art pages as well. Of course, the classic EC. I love that one. Absolutely brilliant story. Another one there, the Catacombs as well. Just glorious. And also it gives obviously a lot of detail as well about the artwork. And of course, classic one there as well. Absolutely superb. Really nice collection. There was originally some volumes, and this probably I think was originally in hardback. But I haven't got the hardback. This one is the paperback one. I think it's just lovely. I don't know if the hardback one, if it's got the same stories or if there's differences between them. Couldn't say. And finally, Frank Bellamy's King Arthur. I haven't got many of these ones. These are from Book Palace, and I love them. But they've always, this one's $14.99. The sort of ones that I sort of find at comic marts. You think, oh, you know what? I'll get that. I think it was like a £5 or something at the comic mart. I thought, King Arthur. Great little stories. Now, it's not particularly my favourite Frank Bellamy artwork, but it's fine. It's absolutely fine. And weirdly, you've got like King Arthur here and his knights, and you can see obviously it says there King Arthur and his knights. But it's also, if you turn on, let's go to the back, you can see it also includes the Swiss Family Robinson. Now, I don't know why they did that. Why they just didn't release it as King Arthur. It would have made more sense, just King Arthur, and then released another one. Maybe fleshed out with some sort of information and essays about it, but using the Swiss Family Robinson. Just seems odd to put the Swiss Family Robinson story with King Arthur. Weird combination, but still, that's fine. But it has got a lovely introduction, which is always good. Love an introduction. But you've got King Arthur and his knights there, which is fine. So that is a run through of that bookshelf, and hopefully that pile will not fall over. As mentioned, Happy New Year, and any comments, always great to hear from you. Please put in the comments below. Thank you much. Bye.